Your voice matters. We are only 2 days away from the big election, and yes, your one vote makes a huge difference. In the book, The 17 Irredisputable Laws of Teamwork, I love how John Maxwell so eloquently describes the law of significance. One is too small of a number to achieve greatness. Teamwork is at the center of phenomenal accomplishments, and once we recognize its value, we can then become better team players. Teams involve more people, thus affording more resources, ideas, and energy. Your one vote is great, and even greater combined with your community. We need your voice. Let's be the change for greatness together. 75 million people have already voted for the upcoming election on November 3rd. 80 million mail-in ballots were requested, which is up 227% from 2016. In 2016, only 138 million Americans voted. This is only 58.1% of eligible voters. Voting is a privilege. Please be the voice and team that makes a change, increasing voter turnout. After all, not everyone has always had the right to vote. When you look at history, it was only 100 years ago that women gained the right to vote. The 19th Amendment legally guarantees American women the right to vote. It was put into action on August 18, 1920. However, just because a woman was eligible to vote did not guarantee she could really vote. Many of the state and local governments made it difficult for those less educated to vote. They would have voters take a literacy test to be eligible to vote. Many Black people attempting to vote were told by election officials they had the date, time, or polling place wrong, that they possessed insufficient literacy skills, or that they had filled out an application incorrectly. Black people had suffered a high rate of illiteracy due to centuries of oppression and poverty. They would be forced to take literacy tests, which they sometimes failed. This affected Black women the most because they had the least access to education, especially because schools remained segregated until May of 1954. It was really only in 1965, one generation ago, that voting became accessible and without discrimination for all. This is just baffling and unbelievable to me. How could we be so shallow and discriminatory as a country? I don't understand not valuing each person equally. How could this ever have happened? It did, and I want to make known what has happened and educate others so history never repeats itself. In 1965, the Voting Rights Bill was passed and signed into law by Lyndon B. Johnson. The bill outlawed discriminatory voting practices adopted in many southern states, including literacy tests as a prerequisite to voting. The act banned the use of literacy tests, and I tell you all this because I want you to understand the importance of exercising your right to vote. James Madison said, "All power is originally vested in and consequently derived from the people, that government is instituted and ought to be exercised for the benefits of the people, which consist in the enjoyment of life and liberty with the right of acquiring property and generally of pursuing and obtaining happiness and safety. Then the people have an indubitable, inalienable, and indisputable right to reform or change their government wherever it may be found adverse or inadequate to the purpose of its institution." James Madison was our 4th president and makes it very known and clear that the American government is to be governed by the will of the people. Legislation and bills come into law by being voted on by Congress and signed into law by the president. Each individual person does not get to vote on a bill. Imagine if we got to vote on bills. Let's take the stimulus, for example. If the people were voting on the stimulus bill instead of Congress, would it have passed already? I believe yes, because the majority of Americans want additional economic relief. It is almost 90% of Americans saying this. Americans are fed up with the Democrats and Republicans both saying that they blame the other party. The governor of New Hampshire said every member of Congress should be voted out. I agree that we need a reset and we need a big change in Washington. Where can you work for 5 years and get a full pension for life? Nowhere except Congress. This is ridiculous, and I encourage you not to only vote, but to educate yourself on the candidates. Don't just vote a party or vote for whose values and beliefs align with yours. It is important to know your candidates. I love Project Vote Smart. VoteSmart.org is an impressive website that covers national and state elections. They have a really cool animated app tool that lets you see how your views compare with candidates in the election. In addition to educating yourself on candidates, I encourage you to stay informed on current legislation. You can check out my latest stimulus video here and use the Vote Smart website as a tool as well. Lastly, contact your representatives regularly and let your voice be heard. To find out how to contact your representatives and who they are, you can go to the Senate.gov and House.gov. Both websites have a wealth of information. One of my favorite features is a way to find and contact your senator and representative. I've included the link in the description of this video. Our taxpayer money pays for these representatives, so never be afraid to let your voice be heard. Maybe we never forget that we are one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks for tuning in. Now ready, set, go vote. Bye for now.